The source, the almighty source in there, will then use your energy for something else, and you will no longer exist. Okay, so this is the universe. This is what we know as creation. When you read books and it talks about all the dimensional levels, this is what refers to as creation. Okay, now we're going to go to the next step. So this is the basic structure of our universe. Like I said, I've taken it and I've just expanded it out to let you understand that it's categorised. Now, just quickly, within each dimensional level, there is an infinite amount of overtones. It's a labyrinth within each one. Okay, we have all these parallel realities really closely aligned with one another. Alright? That's why you talk about the upper astral, the lower astral. What we refer to as the fourth dimension, which is this little spectrum here. Okay, we'll refer to that as the fourth. Okay, you have the lower astral, the upper astral. The people like Mr. Edwards, who does his crossing over talks, he talks to people just here, just on the lower bottom of the fourth. Okay, because that's people who have just passed over and they're still very close to this reality and haven't come to terms with actually going beyond that realm yet. They're caught in what's called the lower astral energies. Alright, so that's who they're talking to, just outside this reality in these areas here. Creation is big. It is really big. It is really vast. The life that exists beyond this one is enormous. It's more vast than you can really comprehend, and I'm just talking about our universe now. What happens is any being that is beyond your reality, whether you're in the 8th and you're talking to someone in the 9th, for example, they will always present themselves to you with what you're comfortable with. They already know you intimately, okay, because they work with energy, and like your energy signature says so much about you, okay, and if they give you a name, that's what you're comfortable with, and that's why you've got some books. You can read different books and they all say different things about the same subject. For example, you can get information on the Council of Nine and you get all different scenarios happening with different authors. A lot of it overlaps and is true, and then you just got little differences. Well, it's their individual perception and it's how it's been presented to them, and yeah. How we have guides, an example, there's beings, each individual incarnation here on Earth has an entourage around them, so to speak, okay? They monitor you all the time, this entourage. It's a very complicated thing. An incarnation here is not so straightforward and simple. There's a lot of work and preparation that goes into everyone incarnating here in this reality. And so therefore your entourage will present to you information which they know at the time emotionally, mentally, spiritually, where you're at. Because if they present you with something that mentally you're not ready with, you're going to freak out. Emotionally you're not ready with, you're going to break down. And that's, everything gets monitored quite closely and gets presented to you when, at your appropriate level when you're ready. And this is something that I've been working with myself, and, why don't I get this any sooner, and why I'm so frustrated, and, I'm learning patience. Because we'd all like to evolve so quickly, and my goodness, I just went through shingles and all sorts of things because I asked for it. I said I want to metamorphose quicker, so I did. That's it, yeah. What this visually represents is the omniverse. What I showed you, what we refer to as creation, is our universe. Okay, and I did draw a line of boundary, meaning that's a border, meaning, okay, if that's a fence, then what's on the other side of that fence, okay? Well, this is what lies outside. When you enter the house of Christ in the Christed realm, and you can get your consciousness to shoot all the way to the top outside the spectrum of polarity, and you can get a little bit of a peek outside our universe, this is what you see. This is what's referred to as the omniverse. And what we have here is that grand sphere, or that ball that both science and creation both say everything came out of. The universe we refer to, and we are physically located, right, about here, and we are just one little dot. All those dimensional levels that we referred to before, and we talked about that we know as creation, is just one little speck in the whole grand universe. Out here is what we refer to as the source and the grand creation. It's absolutely colossal is the only word I can even come close to. It's enormous, colossal, huge. There just are no words that do it justice. Now I've just put dots there. There's a lot of the New Age movement teaches that there's beyond a certain level of reality there's no form. Okay, the source is just what is and there's no form and nothing else exists. The energy that runs through all of this is that energy of what is. It's just the source. You can't, it's just raw energy. You can't think about it really, you just can't give it a name or really, it's just an energy that is. That's totally nameless, genderless, formless, the whole lot. All these other creations majority of them are what have happened before, and some are in the making. I've just drawn dots there because there's forms of existence which my brain does not comprehend. This brain I have here is very limited, and I can only present to you dots. You cannot describe what. When you're up in the higher dimensions, you have full understanding of what you're experiencing. When you come back down into this reality and you try to speak in this third dimension with a brain and a mouth and two eyes, which is made for this reality, it's a very difficult thing. The reason there's gaps, these bands spin at different, some spin that way, some spin that way, depending on the expression required by those universes themselves, the other universes. And there's gaps because some are waiting to be formed. Okay? Creation is big. And in there we call that the grand central universe. So life is far greater and far more wondrous than you ever first thought or imagined. It's huge. And we are part of something that is so great. When you look out there and you look at that cosmos at how big it is, and you think that's huge, and you feel there's no end to that, and it just goes on and on and on. And once you get a peek outside this universe, then you really, wow, puts things into perspective for you. This is the grand myth. We're not going from this reality in a few years, we're going to the golden age. We'll be total gods in creation. We'll just be in kindergarten with all this, okay? Because the House of Christ has quite a big hierarchical structure in it, okay? So we'll be entering at the bottom of that structure basically, and then learning how to utilise the energy of waveform to create. We'll become creators ourselves in this new, which I'll explain later, the kind of devices we'll be using and the way we'll be living. And so once you go through the ranks and you work your way up through all the dimensional levels, eventually, okay, we will be then given the opportunity to go outside magenta and begin our own universe and become a god in our own right. And that's what Thoth is already doing. Thoth had to come back inside. The intent of Thoth had to come back from outside in his own universe, because he's the architect of this universe, Lucifer. Thoth is Lucifer, by the way, okay? And he's got his own other universe happening outside, okay, in the same waveform format as this one. And he's come back in here now at this time and is incarnated here on the planet to help through this process. Okay, so eventually we will graduate through all the dimensional levels of the Christ, and we'll come out the top, pop out the top, and we'll have our own universe in creation, and we'll be our own God. That's the grand plan of creation.